Jackie Locascio found brutally murdered in her home, cut, slashed, beaten to death. A very personal, angry kind of killing. Well, I have two guests joining me now in our New York studios. First, here on the set with me, David Schwartz. David is a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Always great to see you, David.
Good morning, Lisa.
And Jackie Barnett is a New York-based attorney who specializes in matrimonial and family law. And boy, do we need you. Welcome to the program, Jackie.
Great to see you as always. How could you do this to little Eddie? That just is devastating.
And David, the defense in this case is that, yeah, the brother did it, but I didn't put him up to it. Maybe he went a little crazy, or maybe he felt sorry for me because I was going through this terrible divorce. He did it on his own. Is that going to fly?
I think that's the argument in this case, and everything that we just talked about, that Jackie just talked about, this loyalty. You know what? Loyalty isn't enough to convict him beyond a reasonable doubt. You must show this conspiracy. You must show that Ed put Michael up to this horrible act. And that question's going to be, where are these connectors? Where is the evidence? The prosecution has to show something. I mean,
yeah, well, there's a lot of evidence in this case, and we're going to get into all of that as we continue to watch the opening statements, which I think are great so far, by the way. I think the prosecutor's doing a nice job. One of the pieces of evidence that strikes me is these brothers didn't talk all that much in the first 8 months of the year, a couple times, a couple phone calls. Then from August until the time of the killing, a couple months later, 33 phone calls, all right? So they're talking a lot. We know that. You mean to tell me that one brother kills the other brother's wife, and he just went off, flew off the handle on his own and did it, and given all those phone calls, the brother who's the ex-husband didn't know about it?
Yeah, it's definitely a piece of circumstantial evidence, a very important piece of circumstantial evidence for the prosecution. But the defense could easily argue it doesn't mean that they were plotting to kill his wife during those phone calls. It could mean that things were just going south at such a rate that this horrible relationship was taking off. He needed somebody to speak to. And what better person in the world to speak to than your brother, Michael?
Well, that's possible. I guess that makes some sense. Yeah. You know, a lot of these cases we see, though, with a hitman, an alleged hitman, the jury, I think, sees through a lot of that. I mean, there's some. What do you think in terms of the physical evidence in this case? What's the toughest for the defense to overcome?
Well, I mean, certainly you have a lot of physical evidence in this case. But clearly, you know, from Michael's standpoint, you know, the knife, the baton, yes, that's physical evidence that shows that he did the killing. But I think the green duffel bag in this case, certainly from Ed's standpoint in this case, is the toughest piece of evidence. That duffel bag that the cleaning woman saw,
there it is,
and there it is right now. That is clearly linked to Ed as Ed's duffel bag. So that's a tough.
And so Ed's the defendant, Ed is the husband, that's his duffel bag, and the duffel bag is found with a lot of implements in the murder, including a knife that's bent. It's bent from stabbing her. So whoever killed her stabbed her so hard it bent the knife and it hit one of her ribs. There it is. Oh.
And that's an important link right there, that green duffel bag, because that clearly links Ed to the murder scene. And that's what the prosecution needs.
Boy, I'll tell you, just the brutality of this murder. I mean, you know, any murder is horrendous, but when you think about what this woman went through in the last stages of her life, and that's going to be an argument in favor of the death penalty, I think, for this guy. You know, in the husband-wife killings, we don't see the death penalty even asked for a lot of times, and we don't see it administered. I don't know why. I don't know if we give people a pass for a spousal murder, but this is a case where I really think it's possible, if he's convicted, it really could be a death penalty case. Do you think?
I don't see it as being a death penalty case, and the brutality of that murder scene could really be argued the other way too, because it shows it's a crime of passion. I mean, when somebody is brutally murdered like that, it's typically in these type of situations where there's such passion, such rage, where you could argue that temporary rage. And again, it wasn't Ed who committed this murder; it was Michael who committed the actual murder.
Okay, so, Jackie, I hear you. I know you want to weigh in on that. We're going to get you in the next block. I love just hearing the we're going to get you in, I promise.
That's the passion, Lisa.
I promise. You got a lot of passion, too. We love that. And I'm sure this is the first time in a divorce.
Never heard that before. There's a shock.
David, do you think the way that the divorce system plays out contributes to these kinds of problems?
Well, I think you know, Jackie is a great divorce lawyer, but I have to tell you, you know, the way the adversarial system in divorce cases. Here's a perfect example of two people that needed counseling. They needed to be brought back down. You know, I think a mediation type system would be a much better system. But when clients go to their divorce attorney attorneys, they are divorce attorneys in many cases, you know, rev the clients up even more for battle, and it's going to be a long-term battle. We're talking about 10-year battles over assets, over money, over children.
That is much too long. It's painful.
And it just drags on and on and on. And I think the system, you know, the way the whole system is set up does make the clients a little bit more wackier to take them to another level where they don't have to be.
Is matrimonial lawyers, are you guys at fault here?
No. I have to address
Just
the
quickly,
problem.
David,
yeah, very. I think, Jackie, you make a great point, and that's why we need alternative methods. That's why when people agree to go into mediation and take their disputes out of the courtroom, in many cases, they're much better off. The system is terrible.
But it takes two reasonable people to have mediation work. That's the problem. There's always one person. I mean, look at these guys. Look what these brothers are accused.
Sick February 8th, he died.
Because do you think there's evidence in this case beyond a reasonable doubt to convict Cynthia Summer?
Absolutely not. I hate to see verdicts like this, just from a societal standpoint. You know, in a case like this, you can't suspect. It can't be based on guesswork and hypothesis. Here, there's no direct evidence linking Summers to this murder, and it's very unfortunate. Just a couple of the issues that Beth brought out, I don't think they're going to win on ineffective assistance of counsel. You know, you basically have to be just alive during the trial to be effective, and clearly Udell was effective. He advocated, you know, for his client.
What about opening the door to this lifestyle evidence? It wouldn't have come in.
It was a strategy. Yeah, I mean, it could be viewed as a mistake, but it's still based on strategic issues. You know, you can't second guess the strategy of a criminal defense attorney, and you'll never win. You may think he's wrong, but you won't win on ineffective assistance.
Okay, so that's not going to help. Yeah, so that's not going to help. What about this juror misconduct?
Okay, juror misconduct, I think that's a completely different issue. If the juror did outside research, outside experiments, and it's proven in court during a hearing, the judge should throw away that verdict.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that. I don't like that, Beth. Somebody's saying, well, why did she fight extradition if she's innocent? I mean, come on. That's the kind of the essence of the prosecution's claim. We don't like the way she grieved.
Well, you know, what I was going to bring up also was this discovery issue that Beth brought up. You know, discovery issues are the main culprit why we have wrongful verdicts in this country.
Really?
Many times the discovery is not handed over. Key pieces of discovery, you don't get it till the very end of the trial. You get 1,000 pages, you know, the night before you're supposed to be, you know, on that particular key issue. And that is a key issue, is the prosecutor's withholding of discovery. So I think that could play a role also in this hearing.
All right, let's take a quick look at what the defense had to say in their closing arguments at this trial. David Schwartz, what about this alarm going off? The information we have is that this is a woman who set the alarm on her home when she went out, but also when she came back home again, she put the alarm on. To me, especially when you add in the restraining order, this is a woman who was scared. Yeah, she was scared, and I was wondering how the police arrived at the home in the first place. It's because of the alarm system. This must have been a very quick. This was a quick murder. I mean, the assailant came into the home, you know, committed this brutal murder, and really got out of there quickly. If it's the alarm system that's bringing the police there in the first place, as far as the defendant in the police station, you know, you have to remember he's lawyered up at this point. Right. You know, he's not going to be asking questions immediately. Sure, got a lawyer quickly.
So he had the lawyer in place.
But you know what? He's a well-to-do guy. He may have access to lawyers,
which is fine. Which is what everybody should do when they're a target of a criminal investigation. And you have to remember he's involved in the middle of a divorce case. That was, in fact, his divorce lawyer that was with him. So he's not asking all these questions at the police station because he's told not to by his lawyer. Okay, but you know, this is kind of harkens back to Cynthia Summer, who we were just talking about, who was convicted primarily on her post-death behavior, the death of her husband. She acted, you know, inappropriately, according to many people, after his death. Well, here's a guy who's very calm and relaxed, doesn't seem the least bit fazed, doesn't even seem shocked that his wife was murdered. Does that mean anything? Well, it depends on who the juror is. And we all know these cases are won and lost in jury selection. So what is that juror's standard? You know, my personal standard in a case would be a little bit higher. I have different training. I'm a criminal defense attorney. Yeah. I want to see the evidence. I want to see evidence beyond a reasonable doubt connecting this person to a murder. But we've seen jurors, especially in the Summer case, I think we all agree that the evidence in that case was a lot less than in a lot of the other cases that we've seen. And certainly a different jury may have gone a different way. In fact, that alternate juror in the Summers case didn't understand why they came out with their verdict, which is another interesting point. Yeah, well, and Jackie Barnett, I guess I leave a lot of room for people to grieve differently. Some people are going to cry and be hysterical. Some people are going to be very calm.
say about that as we reveal the answer to our question of the day. Stay with us. Immediately gets a lawyer and talks to the lawyer, and the lawyer eventually comes with him. You know, David, that sounds suspicious. I think the jurors would see that as, well, why would an innocent guy need to bring a lawyer? He didn't even know that she was killed. It sounds very suspicious, but we want people to contact attorneys. I don't know if the jury should even be hearing that.
In this particular set of circumstances, especially, it's not suspicious because there is a divorce going on. Originally, he was told that there was just an alarm going off at his house. So he doesn't live at the house anymore. He's not allowed to go to the house. There's a restraining order. So
right.
What else are you going to do but call your divorce attorney that's already handling the case? That's what your attorney's for. He's your link with the whole system.
Right.
Call the divorce attorney. Let the divorce attorney handle the situation.
Right.
Now he finds out that there's a murder. Of course, the divorce attorney is going to advise his client at that point, don't make any statements when you're at the police station. Just don't say anything.